Action.
It's Ben O'Shea from the West Australian in Perth, Australia. Hey, Vanessa. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Ben. Nice to meet you.
How are you doing?
Likewise. Congratulations on the film. It's so beautiful. Really, really incredible. And I can't wait to show it to my 12-year-old daughter when the embargo lifts.
Excellent.
Good. Well, that's definitely part of our audience, sort of kids in that. Well, actually, all ages, we hope, but we certainly hope to inspire some kids with nature because it's one of the most important things out there, and not everyone gets a chance to be outside as much as we'd like. So it's really good to try and connect, the naturalists of the future, if you like, to what's still out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's still out there is kind of the operative term there. And we'll get into that a bit later. So when I read that you spent 1,500 days filming, that's just a phenomenal amount of work. Tell me about, I guess, how it came about and what you got out of it.
Yeah, so it came about because Disney set up a theatric label. Gosh, I shouldn't remember this, probably 15 years ago or so, to try and get feature-length shows initially onto the big screen, but just generally 75-minute nature docs because everything was quite short. And they initially looked around for the perfect subjects. And from their polls of the world, they found that tigers were way the most popular animal. Something like 44 countries voted it as their favorite animal, almost every state in the US. So they said, can you make a tiger show for us first? And we went, no way. So all of the team had experience filming tigers before. Vanessa on a BBC series called Land of the Tiger, me on some other things, all of our crew. And we just went, no
way.
Time isn't right. Tigers are so hard. You just have to choose your moment when everything comes together. You've got the right tigress and the right location with the right local assistance. And at that time, we felt it was too difficult. So we went on and we made a show about chimpanzees and about bears and about monkeys and all sorts of elephants. And then towards the end of the show for Disney, we were making about elephants. We started getting calls from our colleagues in India saying, now is when you should do it. So we basically went back to Disney and said, if you want a tiger show, now's the time, but don't hang around. And luckily they said yes. We went out, and then, yeah, you've seen the result.
I think it's also partly because it coincided with tigers doing really well. So 20 years ago, there were only about 1,500 tigers, and now there are over 3,600. So it was a really good time to work with guides and forest departments and tigers because everyone was very buoyed up by the success of the work that they've been doing in their own country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, tigers are one of the few conservation success stories, I have to say, which is great.
Yeah, like I went to Zimbabwe to do something on the black rhino, and went with the rangers out hunting poachers, and it's just there's so many depressing stories when it comes to the natural world. How do you both find hope?
I mean, that is a very good question. I mean, we both love the natural world so much that you sort of have to have hope. And I think we are lucky enough to travel to places that are still not intact like they were 30 years ago, but still have lots of fantastic wildlife. And we see what is worth saving. And I think the press around the world tend to focus on the bad stuff. And it's very easy, if you don't travel, to get the impression that there's nothing left, so why bother? And that's very much the message from the films that we want to portray, is that there's plenty left to be worth bothering about. And I think another key factor is that climate change is in the news a lot. And so climate change is something which we all know damages wildlife. We all know it's a big problem for the future. And we all feel relatively powerless to do that much about it. Such an international problem, or all the rest of it. But in reality, most forests will be cut down before climate change really hurts them. Most animals will be poached or have some other problem before climate change actually takes effect. So really, whilst we're all worrying about climate change, the thing that we can actually do, all of us, by donating to the right people and the right NGOs on the ground, is to actually save the animals who are in very immediate threat. Not just from the climate change thing that we feel powerless over relatively, but those more immediate effects like deforestation, overfishing, mining, whatever those may be. Those are more immediate effects of facing most wildlife, and we can help with those.
I feel really actually working in countries like India gives me hope, because you think, well, if a subcontinent, which is the most populous in the world, can manage to save tigers and increase their numbers, then there's hope actually for wildlife everywhere. And it's actually really inspiring when you spend time in India, because you see at every level, at the individual level, at the community level, at the forest department level, right up to the government level, people loving their animals, being proud of their animals, and also doing incredibly resourceful things to save them. And you see all the interactions at every level, which has created this incredible, as Mark says, one of the few success stories on the planet. And when tigers get saved, because they're the apex predator of their environment, it means all the rest of the wildlife is saved. So it really is, it's phenomenally uplifting to go, well, if India can do it, so can we.
Absolutely. And that's an example of sort of boots on the ground conservation.
Yeah.
Not critical though climate is. That's people getting out there, stopping poaching.
And actually, if you watch Tigers on the Rise, which is the sister show of the main feature, it tells all those amazing stories of local Indian people doing remarkable things. So well worth a watch as well. I think that drops at the same time.
It should be side by side on the tile.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And tell me about choosing Priyanka as the narrator. I think she's such an inspired choice.
Honestly, it was an easy choice. We had a short list of one. So we're so relieved when she agreed to do it. We really wanted it to be an Indian voice, because tigers are the most quintessentially Indian animal. It felt like someone who was from India and loved tigers as much as we did, which Priyanka does. Priyanka absolutely is obsessed with tigers. Would lend the film a sort of an authenticity. Plus, we think she's just got a great voice. I hope you liked it too. We felt it was a fantastic fit.
And I think she reached both audience, a very international audience. Plus, she's a really, she's got a young family. I think she really identified with the kind of, Amber's story as well, but she was also very, very proud of showcasing her tigers and her forests and her country.
And we're sure, she'll go down well in India. She's obviously very popular around the world, but she's an absolute icon, megastar in India.
Yes.
And, this film is as much for Indians as it is for anyone else in the world. So, I think many Indians hopefully will see things in this film that they've never seen before. They do quite a good job of trying to avoid tigers in their daily lives, because, although they are around and about, they're not undangerous.
Yes. And talking about things that you've never seen before, are there moments in the film where when you saw it in the editing room, you sort of pinched yourself and thought, well, this is something that we haven't seen before?
Yes, there were a number. I suppose the intimacy of the cubs playing and splashing around in the water, and there's all sorts of general stuff about tiger life which I think has never been captured as closely or with such intimacy. So it really is a window into the tiger's world that people won't have seen in general. But specifically, there was a scene where Shankar, our big male tiger, hunts an adult male sloth bear. That in itself is incredible, because sloth bears are almost as dangerous as tigers. I think if you look at the statistics of the number of harmed by them, it's quite alarming. So to see an adult male kill a tiger kill a huge adult male sloth bear was really something. But I think the next thing where Shankar gifts that bear to Amber as a love gift was something that, we've never seen or heard of, and is an extraordinary piece of behavior. And it sort of completes Shankar's kind of character arc as being You know, he starts off being the sort of slightly comedy baddie, but then you see there's a softer side to him. It's a bit more complex, and by the end, he's giving big bunches of flowers. You think, hey, this guy's kind of more modern we thought than we.
But
as you're filming, so much footage, are you getting an idea of what the narrative of these characters might be, or was that something that only kind of becomes apparent in the editing room?
It's something that becomes apparent on the journey, and in this case, you know, a 5 or 6 year journey. It becomes apparent on the journey, and we change where we focus and how we allocate our shooting time as a result of what's happened. So you set out with a plan. Of course, you have to have a plan. Then one will commission you to go and shoot some nice shots. So you start out with a plan based on what you think might happen, and then from day one, you react to what actually happens. And so when you get an amazing scene like that, it sort of changes how you see down the lens and how you start gathering other material. So it's an evolving storyline.
Incredible. And a question for both of you. In past lives, you know, you worked for the BBC's Natural History Unit and worked on films narrated by David Attenborough, who is an icon, of course. We seem to be getting towards the time where we'll be talking about David's legacy and his impact on the earth. How would you describe it?
David was an icon for us. He's the reason both of us got into wildlife filmmaking.
Watching Life on Earth.
Watching Life on Earth in the 1970s, everyone switched on to. And then I think just sort of seeing the number of people, certainly in our industry, which is a growing and very vibrant industry, but also in conservation and in science, you know, people that we meet and interact with all across the planet who've been inspired by David's, filmmaking and his legacy. So I think his voice has brought nature into the sort of common rhetoric where people comfortably think about and worry about the future of animals. And I think that's an enormous legacy for a man to have heard.
I had a WhatsApp last night from my mum saying, "Did you see that David Attenborough shit last night on the telly? It was amazing." I was like, "Mum, I didn't work on that one."
Yeah, but it crosses all generations. And I'm going to let you go. What do you hope people take away from Tiger?
I mean, I hope they take away not just the wonder and majesty of tigers themselves, but also of the whole Indian forest. And I hope they take away a lot of respect for how the most populous country in the world has been able to protect so much of their wildlife. Frankly, it's a lesson to all of us because we've not done so well in the UK.
And also, I hope they take away this sort of, you know, how an animal, amber, can be so feared, but also revered in this country. But what's so lovely is to see her being this nurturing and just wonderfully defensive mum who'll do anything to protect her cubs. I think it's really inspiring as a mum myself.
Yeah, it's a very special experience to watch the film. Well done to both of you. And thanks for the chat. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Us too.